Hello and welcome to another episode of the SASE Show with Sid. We're coming to you today from bright and sunny Melbourne, and I'm really pleased to introduce my guest for today, Michael Fagan, Chief Transformation Officer of Village Roadshow. Michael, welcome to the SASE Show.
Thank you, Sid. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a bright and sunny day today, but it hasn't been for the last few days, has it?
No, welcome to Melbourne. We have 4 seasons in one day.
Well, I'm from Singapore and we have 2 seasons in one day, so this is definitely interesting to be here. Michael, can you tell us a little bit about your role, your experience, and what you're doing these days as Chief Transformation Officer at Village Roadshow?
Yeah. So Village Roadshow is it's like a conglomerate of multiple companies. So we have cinema exhibition, picture theatres in Victoria, and a joint venture with Event throughout the rest of the country. So we're the largest cinema exhibitor in Australia. We also are the largest theme park owner and operator with 6 theme parks on the Gold Coast: Movie World, Wet n Wild, Paradise Country, Top Golf, and others. And we also produce movies. So the likes of The Dry, starring Eric Bana, and a large back catalogue of movies. So if you bought a DVD or rented a movie on Google Play or Amazon in Australia, there's a good chance it was a Village Roadshow movie.
Wow.
I've been at the company just over 2 years, so I joined in the middle of the pandemic, which was a very exciting time. Cinemas were one of the first industries to close in Australia, so pretty much 22nd of March 2020, cinemas closed, and it was 600 days later before we had all of our screens open throughout the country. So it was a long time between drinks for the cinema industry. And of course, the theme parks were closed to our 3 biggest markets for a significant period of the COVID pandemic, being New South Wales, Victoria, and international visitors. So it's been a very exciting time.
Yeah, I can imagine a period of change as well. Your title, Michael, is Chief Transformation Officer. It's not often that you come across this title, and in the context of the ups and downs that your industry has seen during the pandemic, what does your role mean for an organization in your industry?
Yeah, there aren't too many Chief Transformation Officers around, and it's typically for companies that have large-scale change and transformation programs. Although it's different to a typical change management role, I find, having performed in those roles in the past. I find the Chief Transformation Officer role is very much a hands-on role, so you have to be willing to be a doer. You're also providing that depth of experience and capability to the rest of the executive team. So to be able to do some heavy lifting on their behalf and allow them to focus on their core business, and they have another executive then who is able to help them and do some of that role for them.
Interesting. When we talk about things like SASE, as you know, is the topic of the show, that has a big role to play in digital transformation from my experience, which is basically enabling that hybrid work from anywhere model. And a lot of companies during the pandemic transitioned to this model of secure access service edge. But let me take a step back and ask you, what does SASE mean to you and to Village Roadshow, and what's your journey been like?
Yeah, so I think SASE is a very useful framework for companies to think about both network and security. So I think of SASE, I'm thinking of networks, and I'm thinking of security. I'm thinking of combining them together and getting a better overall experience. I think the danger for us as an industry is that there's a lot of fashion in IT, and I worked for Australia's largest retailer. We're part of the Wesfarmers Group for 15 years, and I have a number of executive roles there. And I always used to say there was more fashion in IT than there was in the retail industry. We keep changing things, so I think it's a useful framework to have as long as we don't keep changing. And it's gone from SASE to SSE to SE probably in future. I think that confuses our business stakeholders. But I think the world has changed significantly in the last couple of years. As you know, we've gone from work being a place you go to being an activity that we do, and I think that the world has changed. It's changed permanently. So working from home, a hybrid workforce, people not being in an office anymore. That's definitely something that I think is here to stay. We've probably seen 50 years of progress on the hybrid / working from home front in the last 2 years. So what that means then for companies like us, and probably every other organization I've ever worked with or consulted to, it means that the networks that we have and that we have built in the past aren't suitable anymore. So our network at Village and in my previous employer was designed around the fact that most knowledge workers came to a central office, or maybe two offices or two or three offices. They did their work there, and we had lots of applications on premise. We had lots of infrastructure and hardware on premise, and people came to this one location. So we brought all of the traffic, we backhauled all the traffic back to that central location, with a giant MPLS or WAN or MAN, metropolitan area network. We applied advanced inspection services. We had best of breed firewall, and we were pumping everything through this pipe and then back out into the internet. It just doesn't work like that anymore. Instead of having one office, we just sent everybody home, and all of a sudden we had 1,000 offices. And in many cases 950 of those offices were one person, but we had 950 branches all of a sudden that we didn't have before. So our network was designed for an era that no longer exists. So we're in a new era, and therefore the security concerns also have increased, and how we need to address security in that situation and in this new era needs to change as well. So we embarked on a change program at Village. Initially, we just looked at the SD-WAN layer, but then we explored SASE is still a relatively new technology, so we explored the security aspects of SASE, and decided to embark on that path and bring our network and security capabilities and stack together to get a better outcome overall.
So Michael, you mentioned something really interesting just now, which is the convergence of networking and security. And Gartner has recently come out with this new report talking about single vendor SASE, and you're kind of ahead of the game because you've already done that convergence. So what business benefits do you think that single vendor or the converged networking and security approach has it given you and your organization?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things to that. One is the reasons for not doing it actually have nothing to do with SASE whatsoever. It's actually more to do with organizational design, and typically in large enterprises particularly, the network and security teams, they run separately, they run in silos, and they don't talk to each other enough. I think that's probably the biggest barrier. The second thing that I hear people talk about is, well, you can't get best of breed with just one vendor. So I'd actually challenge both of those assumptions. The first is that in smaller organizations, Village is a very big brand, but it's got a smaller IT team, and our network and security team wear many hats. Now, we might have someone who's wearing a network hat one day and then a security hat the other day. So he doesn't want to be dealing with multiple vendors, multiple contracts, multiple SLAs. So he wants to be dealing with one single stack, which you get with obviously a single SASE vendor. Also getting that breadth and depth of experience and technologies that work together is very important. Being able to manage that technology across a single pane of glass is very important when you have a smaller team or a dedicated team. And sometimes we make things complex ourselves internally in organizations unnecessarily. But I think the biggest thing for me personally is the interoperability aspect of going with a single vendor. So if you think about all the different aspects of network and security, and that's whether that's CASB or secure web gateway or firewalls, and having all those things work together, buying them from multiple different vendors means there's a risk that they don't work together, and you end up with interoperability issues. And I've got personal experience of that, and I think it's quite interesting that I think the IT industry is probably the only industry in the world that will release a new product and you buy it and it doesn't work, or it doesn't do exactly what you want. It's quite interesting. You wouldn't buy a car and say, well, Ford and Toyota can't drive on the same road.
Yeah.
Or you've bought this type of car but it can't drive on the road to the airport. You need to modify it or configure it. But we constantly sell software products, and infrastructure is now software. It's code. So the risk of buying a piece of hardware or software or a service and not working with something else is very real. And I've had personal experience of that, where I'm dealing with two best of breed companies in that top quarter of Gartner, having routers and switches and trying to get them to work together across the network, and they just don't work. I can actually remember it's burned into my brain because I was actually on vacation at the time. I was sitting on a camel at Uluru, formerly known as Ayers Rock, sitting there and on the phone trying to diagnose an issue and coach my team through a network transformation where we had switches and routers from two different vendors that didn't work together. It completely ruined my whole life. If I could avoid doing that again, then I would. So going with a single vendor for all of the SASE components reduces that risk nearly to zero. And even if there is a problem, then it becomes that vendor's problem. Because when I spoke to those other vendors, they just pointed fingers at each other and said, well, it's obviously clearly not us. You need to go talk to the other guys. And you can't have that happening on the 25th of December or during an important time where you're trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, and I think that also translates into a user experience improvement, not just for your end users, but also for your IT team, right? We were talking earlier about how your IT team got some benefits out of that.
Yeah, it's so much easier for the IT team to manage. It's one set of tools that they're learning to use. It's one console. It's one management pane. It's one vendor that they're dealing with. It's one set of training. There's so many benefits for them just in that daily operation, and that's when things are going well. Yeah, and when things don't go well, it's 10 times easier dealing with one set of technologies than than others. And that's in addition to the benefits that you get from a SASE architecture. I mean, our users love what SASE gives them, but so do the IT team because it frees them up. There are less queries coming in to them, so that allows them to focus on more important things that they need to look at.
Right, especially in the context of having not one office but hundreds of offices, like you said earlier, people working remotely. I think that's definitely a massive improvement.
Yes.
Do you feel like now with SASE, the convergence of networking and security, things moving more to the application layer rather than talking just about the nuts and bolts of the network, do you feel like the network security conversation is now a boardroom conversation as compared to the past where it was just an appliance sitting in the data center?
Yeah, I think it is, but I'm not sure that boards really want to be discussing network security. I'd have to say our company, we don't want to be famous for great infrastructure and great network security. We want to be famous for delivering the best customer experience in Australia. So you go to our theme parks, you'll have a memory that will last a lifetime. You go to watch a movie, it's the most comfortable place to watch a movie. It's a great experience that you have. You don't go, I'm going to go watch Avatar at Village because they've got Palo Alto or because they've got great network security. You want a great experience. But having said that, in order to be able to deliver those great experience, you need a stable network. You need a secure network. You need one that's always on. You need one that allows our frontline staff to be able to deliver those great experiences. It needs the head office or central staff to be able to deliver great service to the frontline staff so they can serve a customer. So if you want to deliver a great customer first experience, you need to be able to deliver to the people who are delivering to customers. And I think that's why SASE and network security is now a boardroom topic.
Makes a lot of sense. Just diving a little bit into the security portion, you mentioned earlier that your pre-SASE state was a lot of different point products from a security perspective, and the security part of SASE allowed you to consolidate that. So what does life look like from a pre-SASE and post-SASE implementation from a security perspective and all the consolidation?
Now the difference in performance is noticeable to end users, to our staff. So a non-IT staff they've noticed a difference. Yeah, so we've got the Prisma Global Protect being an always-on VPN solution. So no matter where they are in the world, our staff open up their laptop, and within a couple of seconds they're connected to the internal network. They don't need to remember usernames, passcodes, pins, have the little physical tokens that you used to have for putting in the pin, or a digital token now on their phone. I mean, I've already got 4 or 5 apps that are authentication apps. We don't need to have any of that now. Our team don't need to remember it, and it's almost like a thank God I don't need to do that, because it's saving 5 minutes every day or every time they log on. So probably multiple times if they're traveling. So
Yep.
which doesn't sound like a lot when you multiply it 5 times by a couple of times per day, by 5 days a week, by thousands of staff. All of a sudden, that adds up to years across a 12-month period. So there's a lot of savings for our staff who really can really notice and appreciate the difference that the new SASE architecture has. And because of that, because they're not having to put in a call to reset their passcode, which has gone out of sync, or to I've forgotten my passcode, or I've left it at home, or what do I do in this situation? We don't have to deal with those mundane things through our help desk and service desk. That means that those staff members who are helping others can deal with real problems that require that human intervention or human brain power, and their jobs are more fulfilling, and the people they're helping are more satisfied. It's that virtuous loop of you
Right.
improved one thing and then other things are getting better as well.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it actually sounds to me like along the SASE journey, there are some very practical and immediate benefits that organizations can get right off the bat, right? It's not this philosophical, architectural discussion where you're trying to get to this utopian end state. The moment you start your journey, there's a lot of immediate benefits that you can derive based on what you're saying. So what would be your one piece of advice to fellow practitioners, CIOs, CISOs, Chief Transformation Officers, on getting started with the SASE journey, or any pointers thereof?
But for people embarking on a SASE journey, I think the first thing to do is to get started. The hardest step is always the first one. So getting started on this journey. The second thing is to make sure that the network and security teams are aligned and are working together. I think that's how we end up with multiple vendors, because you have the network team is going off this way, saying this is the most important, and the security team is going this way. But actually, they're really one and the same things, but particularly nowadays. So they need to be aligned and working in parallel. If you haven't gone and changed your network in the last couple of years, you're now operating. What you have is a set of technology, hardware and software that works for an era, was designed for and works for an era that no longer exists. We no longer all come to, and I talk about the 99.9% of organizations that came together, had all of their people in one building, where that era doesn't exist anymore. So we need to rethink about the infrastructure and services and how we deliver to those people who are now, thousands of branch offices of one person sitting at home.
So what I'm hearing is get started, but select the architecture that's going to help prepare your organization for the future of the way we work and the way we conduct business, right?
Yeah, and it's different. I mean, SASE architects are different to what we've had in the past. So it's good to go talk to someone who's done it and work with a great partner. I have to say that we worked with a great partner, and they did a fantastic job for us in bringing that thought leadership in and opening our eyes to things that we didn't know was possible. Like I said, we started off. It was an SD-WAN journey for us, and it was and in many ways cost related. This is cheaper. Over 3 years, even with all the setup and installation costs, it will cost 50% of what it used to cost for us. So we've dropped our cost by 50%, and we've got a better outcome. It's more stable, it's more secure.
Thank you, Michael. We really appreciate your partnership, of course, and it's been a fascinating conversation. I could go on and on asking you questions, and I bet you could talk all day about it, but I'm at the end of my SASE questions, and now I want to ask you a question that I've been asking all my guests, which is, what's your favorite movie of all time? It doesn't have to be a cybersecurity movie, but it could be any movie, yeah.
Cybersecurity movies, they're up there,
Yeah.
but I don't know whether they go too well in a Village cinema. My favorite movie of all time was one that came out before I was born. It's The Godfather.
Uh-huh.
I think there's probably a couple of lessons in there for us about personally and professionally.
Yeah.
Personally, family is important.
Yeah.
Maybe not with the same consequences you'd have in the Godfather.
Yeah.
And I think then professionally, a lesson that is probably displayed well in that movie is around not going against. Michael Fagan said, never go against the family.
Go against the family.
Where I think that's a good lesson for us, where you professionally is to debate and argue different types of solutions or different points of view, but then when you settle on something, that there's a unified front out to the public and the rest of the team and the rest of the company. So some nice little lessons in there I think you can apply.
There's some nice lessons in there from a personal, professional perspective. And actually, I was thinking about it while you were talking, also from Zero Trust, right? That scene where they're coming to assassinate Vito Corleone in the hospital, and then Michael goes and shifts him to the other room, and then stands outside the hospital. Doesn't really have a gun, but makes it look like it. So that there's some Zero Trust analogy in there that I'm not exactly able to place, but it'll come to me after we finish filming. But yeah.
And when Sonny checks that the gun is hiding behind the toilet for Michael.
Oh yes.
Zero trust.
Yeah, there's some Zero Trust in there. Michael, it's been a fascinating conversation. Thank you so much for spending time with us. Really enjoyed the insights, and I'm sure the audience learned a lot from our session.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you, Sid.
Thank you. So that was another episode of the SASE Show with your host Sid and my guest Michael Fagan, Chief Transformation Officer at Village Roadshow. We hope you enjoyed the session, and please feel free to comment, like, and engage, and let us know what you thought about the episode. And if you want to talk to us, you know where to find me. Thank you, and see you next time.